Biomass can be converted directly into liquid fuels called biofuels to meet the demands for transportation fuel. The two most common types of biofuels in use are called ethanol and biodiesel. Ethanol is an alcohol, same as in beer and wine, although ethanol that is modified for the use as a fuel is undrinkable. Ethanol is most commonly made by fermenting any biomass that has a high amount of carbohydrates through a process similar to beer brewing with the use of starches and sugars, though technology is currently being developed to allow it to be made from cellulose and hemicellulose, which is the fibrous material that makes up the bulk of most plant matter. Ethanol can also be made by the process of gasification, where high temperatures and a low oxygen environment meet to convert biomass into synthesis gas, a mixture of hydrogen and carbon monoxide, which is then chemically converted into ethanol and other fuels. Ethanol is mostly used as a blending agent with gasoline to increase octane and reduce levels of carbon monoxide and other smog-causing emissions, which would make large cities such as Los Angeles a more breathable place. An example of the recent advent of vehicles that are largely dependent on ethanol-based fuel is the flexible fuel vehicle, which is designed to run on E85. E85 is an alternative fuel with a significantly higher ethanol content than standard gasoline. Biodiesel is made by combining alcohol, usually methanol, with vegetable oil, animal fat, or recycled cooking grease. Biodiesel can be used as an additive to reduce vehicle emissions or in its pure form as a renewable alternative fuel for diesel engines. Of all the alternative energy sources, biofuels have attained the greatest political momentum in recent years due to the promise of lucrative new markets for farm products such as corn and sugarcane, both of which are chief ingredients for different types of ethanols. The United States Congress has, in recent years, adopted extensive mandates and subsidies to get a biofuel industry off the ground, and in addition, other countries have adopted renewable fuel policies. Biofuels possess a huge advantage over fossil fuels due to the fact that the source plants absorb carbon dioxide from the air as they are growing, so the carbon dioxide that is released when biofuels are burnt does not produce a net addition of greenhouse gases to the Earth's atmosphere. First-generation biofuels, particularly ethanol made from corn and sugarcane, as well as biodiesel made from vegetable oil, have been highly controversial since their invention. One reason why biofuels are highly controversial is because of the recent concern over the formation and expansion of dead zones in the Gulf of Mexico, as well as on the Atlantic coast, which have been particularly linked to the high amounts of fertilizer and pesticide runoff from the Corn Belt of the Midwest United States. Additionally, the recent increase in corn production as a result of the urgency by corn farmers to comply with the 2007 renewable fuels target that was set forth by the United States government is predicted to add to current nitrogen pollution levels in the Gulf of Mexico by 10 to 34%. Due to the fact that a large portion of the world's crops are currently being diverted toward the production of biofuels, the prices of many foods have increased dramatically in recent years, causing more people in poor, underdeveloped nations to go hungry, which in turn is causing significantly larger problems with mass starvation in many such third world areas, and in addition is exacerbating problems associated with famines in drought-stricken third world areas such as the Sahel region of Central Africa. In June 2011, the United States Senate voted 73 to 27 to end tax credits and trade protection that once benefited the corn-based ethanol industry, which had broad backing from both political parties. Corn farming is highly polluting and requires more fertilizer and pesticides than other potential biofuel feedstocks such as soybeans and perennial grasses. Potential water shortages are predicted in at least 36 states by 2013. Which concerns many scientists due to the potential water use for ethanol, since modern ethanol producing plants use 3 gallons of water to produce 1 gallon of ethanol. Many fuel companies and laboratories throughout the biofuel industry are consistently searching for new sources of biofuels ranging from household waste to algae. The overall goal of the American biofuel industry is to produce 60 billion gallons per year of biofuels by the year 2030. which is a huge increase from the current production rate of only 10 billion gallons per year. More than 100 industry workers recently met at a conference in Rotterdam to discuss the next generation of biofuel feedstock, with the hopes that the industry will eventually cease its use of corn and sugarcane as feedstocks. The 2007 Energy Independence and Security Act, which was passed by the U.S. government, mandates the use of 36 billion gallons of biofuels on an annual basis by the year 2022. As a result, there are at least 200 ethanol plants in at least 27 states, almost all of them using corn as their feedstock. The Idaho National Laboratory near Arco, Idaho has recently been looking into making a biofuel using crop residue by separating food crops from the leftover crops and then producing a cellulosic ethanol. However, questions have risen over whether the crops will be used economically to sufficiently produce the biofuel while efficiently doing no harm to the state's food supply. And in addition, questions have risen over how much of the state's crop harvest should in fact go toward the production of this biofuel. Check out this video on how biodiesel is made.
If your car has a diesel engine, it can run on biodiesel fuel, usually without requiring any modifications. While biodiesel and petroleum diesel are similar in energy efficiency and fuel economy, biodiesel is more eco-friendly. For starters, it can be made from what would otherwise have been waste. For example, from vegetable oil of your local fast food joint. The restaurant simply discards its used fryer oil in a receptacle out back. Every few days, a vacuum truck comes by to collect it. In its current state, the oil contains water and food particles, making it unusable for biodiesel production, so the truck transports it to a filtering plant. There, they pump the oil into a holding tank, then heat it up to draw out the water. Once they drain the water, the oil is ready to enter a multi-stage filtering process. First, the oil goes through a vibrating sieve, which strains out the larger pieces of debris. After this first filtering, the oil is already visibly cleaner. Next, it passes through a second vibrating sieve. This one has a finer mesh, therefore it catches smaller particles of debris. After the second stage, the oil looks clean, but still contains microscopic debris. So it enters the third and final filtering stage, passing through 20 ultrafine filter cloths, which trap any particles larger than 1 micron in size. A micron is about 80 times smaller than the width of a human hair. The captured debris leaves a muddy residue on the filters. That vegetable oil which once deep-fried potatoes is now ready to cook up some diesel fuel. Another source of oil for making biodiesel is beef tallow, oil derived from cow fat. Biodiesel producers typically buy tallow from facilities like this one, which specialize in cleaning cow hides for leather tanneries. Sharp revolving blades shear off the fat from the back of the hide. The fat drops onto a conveyor, which moves it into a steam injection cook tank. The tank heats the fat to a gentle boil, extracting the oil. Everything else leaves the tank and drops into a waste container. The oil moves onward, passing through a two-stage filtration process. Whether the raw material is vegetable oil or beef tallow, the biodiesel producers refer to this main ingredient as feedstock. When the feedstock arrives at the biodiesel plant, it goes into a holding tank until production time. This demonstration illustrates the production recipe. They take the feedstock and combine it with methanol, a type of wood alcohol, as well as with a catalyst, which triggers a chemical reaction. A processing unit mixes everything thoroughly while applying heat and pressure. The resulting chemical reaction produces a harmless byproduct, glycerin, a common ingredient in soaps and cosmetics. Processing consumes much of the methanol. Then they remove even more, leaving just a tiny percentage of it in the finished biodiesel. To ensure their fuel meets international regulatory standards, the plant's quality control lab tests samples from each production run. In this flammability test, they heat the fuel to 135 degrees Celsius, then apply a flame to see whether the gases ignite. If they do, they have to remove more methanol to make the fuel safe. If they don't ignite, the fuel meets international safety standards. Biodiesel costs more at the pump, but emits significantly less carbon dioxide and monoxide.